Good morning and welcome to our next maths lesson. So yesterday then we started our this section of the topic of measure, and we just looked at what we weigh things in, what we use to weigh things, and hopefully you have had a look around your house. Hopefully you've been finding things like my packet of sweets and you've been thinking, oh, I wonder how much that weighs. Oh, it's 150 grams. Okay, so hopefully you've been having a look around your house and looking at the things that you are eating so you can see what they weigh, or looking at things that you drink and looking at the volume or the capacity. So today then we are going to convert, which means to change between metric units of measurement. So reminder then, rewind back to yesterday, we're only looking at metric measurements at the moment. So metric measurements are the newer system, like millimeters, centimeters, meters, kilometers, where we measure things and they've all got a link to them. Okay, so milliliters and liters, grams and kilograms. So we've got like a base unit, and then we times by 10, 100 or 1,000, which makes it really easy to convert between them. Whereas the imperial system, the old system, you've got stone and pounds, and it's not as easy to convert between those because you don't times by 10, you times by 14, I think. So it's a bit trickier. Okay, so today we're only looking at converting between metric, and we'll look at imperial later in the week. So we are, as ever, deepening by problem solving, and we're doing it so that we can change between units, which is a really useful skill, especially if you are cooking or following a recipe. This is a really useful skill. Right, rewind then. So, right, today's date. Right, rewind. And I want you to have a go at working these out. If you need to draw a little place value grid, do, or you might be able to do these in your head. Okay, so for this first one then, we've got 1.2 and we are timesing it by 10. Now, hopefully you haven't done column method because you don't need to when you're multiplying by 10, 100 and 1,000. We know this because our place value system is based on timesing by 10. So 10 ones make a 10, 10 tens make 100, 10 hundreds make 1,000. We also know, because we've done decimals, that 10 tenths, 10 over 10, 10 out of 10 would make one whole. So 10 tenths makes a whole. 10 hundredths makes a tenth, and 10 thousandths makes a hundredth. So if we move one column along, we are timesing by 10. So little pen. So if I were to do 1.2 times by 10, that means I'm moving it one place and my number is getting bigger. So I'm going to move it one place to the left. So my 1/10 times by 10 becomes a 10. My 2/10 times by 10, they become 10 times bigger. They don't fit in this tenth column anymore. We can't write 20 tenths. 20 tenths is the same as 2 wholes. I can put the decimal point if I want to with a 0. I don't have to, because we know that after a decimal point, 0 doesn't change the number. So my answer would just be 12. Well done. You got that right. Next one then, 1.23. And this time we are timesing by 1,000. So 1.23, there it is. And we're timesing by 1,000. So if we move one place is timesing by 10, how would we times by 100, do you think? Well, it's times by 100, it's 10 times 10, so we move it 2 places. And we can remember this because there's 2 zeros at the end of 100. So it's times by 100, we would move 2 places up the place value scale. What would we do to times by 1,000 then? Well, 10 times 10 times 10. So we move it 3 places up the place value scale. Which helps us, we can remember this because 1,000 has got 3 zeros, so we move it 3 places. Let's move it 3 places. So my 1, where's my pen? My 1 times 1,000 is 1,000. So this should end in my thousands column. Let's try it. Well, it's going to move 1 column, which is times 10. Now I've times by 100, and now I've times by 1,000. And oh, look, it's in the thousands column. My 2/10 then, let's move it 3 places. So times 10, times 100, times 1,000. My 3, I times by 10, times by 100, times 1,000. And there's my answer. Happy? Or hopefully you're telling me no, because if I move that place value scale, what's that number say? Well, it says 123. And I don't want 123. I wanted 1,203 tenths. So what needs to go here in this ones column to show that I have times by 1,000? I need a placeholder. I need a 0. So really well done if you got that one right. Okay then. So we've looked at multiplying. We're now going to look at dividing by 10, 100 and 1,000. So to multiply, we make our number bigger. We move it to the left on our place value scale. So to divide, we make it smaller and we move it to the right. So we're going to do 34 divided by, oh, sorry, I didn't give you any time, did I? Right, there we go. Pause video, have we go. Okay, now I can tell you the answers. So 34 divided by 10 then. So let's make sure I've got 34. Let's make sure it's in the right place on my place value scale. And I'm going to divide by 10. So if this is timesing by 10, then this way is dividing by 10. So I'm going to move it all one place to the right. So my 3 10s, 30 divided by 10 would just be 3 ones. And we know that anyway. And we can see this because the 3 has moved one place to the right. So my number 4 then, my 4 ones, it starts in the ones column. It's going to move one place divided by 10. So it's in the 10ths column. Happy with my answer? Hopefully you've told me no, because if I took the place value scale away, that would just say 34. So what do I need to add? Decimal point. So 34 divided by 10 is 3.4. If we divided it by 10 again, so we've divided the original number by 100, everything would move over again, and then we'd need a 0 in that ones column. If I divided it by 10 again, so I've divided the original number by 1,000, 3 would move over, the 4 would move over. What would I need there? Well, I'd need a 0, wouldn't I? There's a placeholder to show there's nothing in that 10ths column. And hopefully you can see that the order of the numbers stays the same. That 3 and the 4 stay together, and we just push them down that place value scale. Sometimes people do strange things and they change the numbers around and the number changes. Okay, it stays exactly the same. You just make it bigger or smaller by moving it along the scale. Right. The last one then for this rewind, 680 divided by 100. So 680. And we're going to divide by 100. So how many places do you think we're going to move it? Well, if we're dividing by 100, we're going to move it 2 places because we divide by 10, divide by 10. So my 6 starts here and it moves divide by 10, divide by 100. And we know that 600 divided by 100 would be 6. My 8 10 starts here, divided by 10, divided by 100. My 0 starts here, divided by 10, divided by 100. What do I need? Decimal point. What don't I need? Well, I don't really need that 0, so I can take it off. You still get the point if you got it with it. So my answer should be 6.8 or 6.80. Really well done if you got those right. Okay, we're now going to move forwards, if my laptop lets me, and hopefully explain why we're multiplying by 10, 100 and 1,000 as our fluency before we get on to measure. Why do you think that might be? Well, if you're not sure, you're about to find out. So our metric system uses timesing by 10, 100 and 1,000 to change between big units of measurements and smaller units of measurement. So we either divide or multiply by 10, 100 and 1,000. That's the relationship between all of the measurements. There's either 10 somethings make something else, or 100 somethings make something else, or 1,000 somethings make something else. So at no point during this lesson should you be multiplying by 17, because there aren't 17 centimetres in a metre. There's 100 centimetres in a metre. At no point should you be multiplying by 93, because there's not 93 millilitres in a litre. There's 1,000 millilitres in a litre. So to help you remember whether it is 10, 100 or 1,000, we're going to have a little look now at the meaning of some of these words, some of the bits of the words and the prefixes, and we're going to see if we can then get something in our head that's going to help us work out whether is it 10, 100 or 1,000 that make up that bigger unit. So I want you to write these down for me. What does kilo mean? Well, the little prefix or root word of kilo means 1,000. Okay, so I want you to write this down. Kilo equals 1,000. We don't really say kilogram, we say kilogram, but for the purpose of this, I'm going to say kilogram so you can really see that it's the same word. 1 kilogram is how many grams then? If kilo means 1,000, 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams. 1,000 grams make up 1 kilogram. So here is, oh, it's quite heavy. Here is my 1 kilogram, which is heavier than it looks. It's quite small, but it's quite heavy. And that is made up of 1,000 grams. Okay? Gram, not very heavy. Kilogram, quite heavy. Okay then. What would 2 kilograms be then if we converted it, changed it into grams? Remember that kilo means 1,000. So kilogram means 1,000 grams. Well, if 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams, 2 kilograms is 2,000 grams. And again, I would write these down. Ooh, fun numbers today, so that you can see this. Okay, keep this in your book. This is really useful. So what did you do to work this out? Well, you probably thought, well, kilogram means 1,000 grams. So to convert to grams, I've times it by 1,000 because kilo means 1,000. Or you might have noticed that this is you double 1 to get to 2, so you doubled 1,000 to get to 2,000. Either of those is perfectly a good method to work this out. Okay then, so this time I know that I've got 4,000 grams. What would that be as a kilogram? Well, kilograms means 1,000 grams, and I'm going to keep saying this to myself. Kilogram means 1,000 grams. So this time, I don't want to times this by 1,000, because when I went from kilograms to grams, I times by 1,000. So to go from grams to kilograms, I need to divide by 1,000. So this time, I'm going to divide by 1,000. I'm going to put 4,000 into groups of 1,000 because there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram. So 4,000 grams is the same as 4 kilograms. Hopefully you're following so far. Next one there, a bit of a challenge, get your thinking hats on. So what would 5.5 kilograms be then? Well, if it was 5 kilograms, it would be 5,000 grams because we are timesing it by 1,000. So going from kilograms to grams, we are timesing by 1,000. Let me just rub this one out so we can draw this a bit neater. Let's go for a red pen, why not? So we're going from kilograms to grams, so we are timesing by 1,000 because 1,000 grams makes a kilogram. So you can draw your place value scale out if you want to, or you might be ready to do it in your head now. It's up to you. So 5.5 times 1,000. Let's go back to this so we can prove our answer. There we go. So 5.5, we're timesing by 1,000. We're timesing, so it's going to get bigger. Timesing by 1,000, how many places am I moving? 3. So this 5 is going to go 1, 2, 3. This 5 is going to go times 10, times 100, times 1,000. What else do I need? I need 2 zeros, need 2 placeholders. So my answer would be 5,500 grams. Let's have a look. Does that make sense? Well, yeah, that does make sense, doesn't it? Because 5 kilograms would be the same as 5,000 grams. And then we've got half, 0.5, same as a half. Half of a kilogram is 500 grams, 5,500. Well done. Next one's then. If kilo means 1,000, what does milli mean? What does milli mean? Well, milli means 1,000th, like the decimal, okay, 1,000th. So, how many milliliters do you think make a litre? How many milliliters make a litre? If milli means 1,000th. Well, hopefully you're telling me 1,000. So, this is on the front, here it is. So 1 litre is the same as 1,000 milliliters. Okay, I'm going to look at this side first of all. So I want to pause the video. I want to have a go at working these ones out here. So if 1 litre is 1,000 milliliters, what's 2 litres? What's 7,000 milliliters? And what's 8,500? Okay. Okay, so if 1 litre is the same as 1,000 milliliters, 2,000 is then the same as 2,000 milliliters because milli means 1,000th. So we need to times this by 1,000 to get to milliliters because 1,000 milliliters make up a litre. Next one then, have a look at that one. Well, hopefully this time you can see that we're going from milliliters to litres. So this time we're dividing by 1,000. 7,000 divided by 1,000, 7 litres. Slightly trickier, but I think we can do it. So we did 8,500, we're dividing by 1,000, 8.5 of a litre. Lovely. Right, we've done this side, we should be able to do this side. Nice and easy. So this time then, we are talking about millimeters rather than milliliters. So millimeters are the ones on your rulers. that are really tiny, and 1,000 millimeters make up a meter. So off we go. Well, hopefully you've noticed it's exactly the same as the other ones, apart from this time we're looking at millimeters, not milliliters. So 2 meters is then the same as 2,000 millimeters. Ooh, that is a very strange zero. I do apologize. This one then would be 7 meters, and this one would be 8.5 meters. Nice and easy. Okay, so the only thing you really need to get your head round is which way you are timesing and which way you are dividing by. Okay, so we know that milli means 1,000. So you just need to remember which way you are multiplying by 1,000 and which way you are dividing by 1,000. Normally, if it's a smaller number like 3 meters, you're probably going to be multiplying. You're going to multiply it to find millimeters because you want to find 1,000th of them. So you want to make it bigger to work out how many thousands fit into that meter. So write these down so that you have got them so that you are clear. Next one then. What does cent mean? So far we've only been timesing by 1,000. Okay, so we did kilo means 1,000, milli means 1,000. So we've timesing by 1,000 and divided by 1,000. What does cent mean? Well, cent, like a centipede, means 100. Okay, like per cent means out of 100, cent means 100. So 1 meter then is 100 centimeters. Cent a meter. So there's 100 centimeters in a meter. So this time we're not timesing by 1,000 and dividing by 1,000. We are timesing and dividing by 100. So to get from 1 meter to centimeters, you times by 100 because there's 100 centimeters in a meter. Pause the video, have a go at the rest. Well, I'm going from meters to centimeters, so I'm timesing by 100. 2 times 100 is 200. This way round, I'm going to divide by 100 then to work out the meters. So 900 divided by 100 is 9 meters. Same again, then I'm going from centimeters to meters, so I divide by 100, so it will be 8.3 meters. And have the 0 there, but you don't need to. Right, well done if we got this right. So this then is a kind of relationship between kilometers, meters, centimeters, and millimeters. So we know some of these already. There's 1,000 meters in a kilometer. There's 100 centimeters in a meter. There is 1,000 millimeters in a meter. But there's one relationship there that we've not yet looked at. And the one we've not looked at is this one. We've not looked from millimeters to centimeters yet. But we can work it out. If there is 1,000 millimeters in a meter and there's 100 centimeters in a meter, what must be the relationship between millimeters and centimeters? So the whole thing is 1,000. Centimeters to meters is just 100. So what do you have to times 100 by to get to 1,000? You times it by 10. And there are 10 millimeters in the centimeter, which again, if you can see on your ruler, there are 10 tiny little dashes in 1 centimeter. So to get from centimeters to millimeters, you would times it by 10. And to get from millimeters to centimeters, you would divide by 10. So that's the only one that we haven't quite looked at. But hopefully you can see the relationship between those. If I was you, I would write this fabulous diagram down so that you've got it for the rest of the lesson. Okay, right, let's get going then. So let's write discover. Let's have a look at our discover for today. So we're obviously on some kind of building site. I'm looking at this scene and I can see that over here I've got a list of very useful conversions. So I'm going to keep looking at that because I think that might help me. I can see I've got a bucket that's got a decimal and it's out of litres. Now I know that litres are the bigger measurement of volume of liquid capacity, so I know this is quite a big measurement. 40,000, well that's a big number, 500 grams. Well I know that grams are the smaller ones, so maybe I'm going to turn this into kilograms maybe, that's kind of what I'm thinking, because I know there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram, and I've got 40,500 grams, so maybe I'm going to be thinking about that one in kilograms. Toshi is saying that this piece of wood is between 1.2 meters and 1.3 meters long. Okay, I've got that as well. Right. Number 1. How could you label the cement and the bucket, there's the bucket, using different units of measurement? Well, I'd already thought to myself that the centimetre in the cement, this was a big number for grams, and I could turn that into kilograms to make it easier for myself. So that's maybe one thing I'm going to do. What am I going to turn litres into, I wonder? Millilitres. Okay. So that's one task for you to do. So you can pause the video now, have a go at that one. Second one then, how many centimetres long could the piece of wood be? Now that word could is making me think that there's no exact answer for this. The word could is making me think that there's more than one possible answer. Pause the video, have a go. Okay then, get my pen, so let's have a go together. Right, how could we label the cement differently? Right, I'm going to just shrink this down so that I can right underneath so you can see. So the cement then was 40,500 grams. Okay, as soon as I am seeing this, I am thinking to myself, what do I know about grams? Well, I know that grams are weight, and I know that there's how many grams in a kilogram? 1,000, and it's actually on there as well if I wanted it. But there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram. Why? Well, because kilo means 1,000. So I know then to go from kilograms to grams, I would be timesing by 1,000. So I want to take that kilogram and I want to split it into 1,000 pieces, and that would make my grams. So I know to go from grams to kilograms then, I'm going to divide by 1,000. So you could use a place value map for this. That's absolutely fine. You might be able to do this in your head. That's absolutely fine. I am going to model it on my place value grid, I think. I think that's the easiest way for you to see it without me kind of scrawling all over the page. So 40,500 grams. 40,500 grams. Let's make sure it's in the right place. A bit bigger. Okay, I'm dividing by 1,000. So which way am I moving it? Well, I'm moving it down. It's getting smaller. If I'm dividing by 1,000, I am moving it 3 places. Right, let's move it then. So we can move it once, twice, 3 times. So I've moved it 3 times. I've divided it by 1,000. What does this need to be? It needs to be a decimal point. Do I need these? Nope, I can get rid of those. So the answer would be 40.5 kilograms. I'll have a look at my original one and see if that makes sense. So I think the answer is 40.5 kilograms. Right, I'm looking at this and I think this makes sense because half a kilogram would be 1,000, would be 500 grams because half of 1,000 is 500. So I know that 500 grams is going to be the same as 0.5, so I agree with that there. 4,000 grams would be 4 kilograms, so 40,000 grams would be 40 kilograms. Perfect. Next one then, let's do the cement. So 9.25 litres. What am I turning this into? Well, I'm turning this into millilitres. How many millilitres in a litre? 1,000. So I know I need to turn this, times this, sorry, by 1,000. Right, I'm going to try this one without my place value, Max. I'm feeling a bit more confident with my place value. Well, 9 times 1,000 is 9,000. So I think that's going to go in my 9,000s column. Then I'd have the 2 would be in my hundreds column. The 5 would be in my tens column. What do I need here then? I need a 0 in my ones column. So that would be 9,250 millilitres. Right, last little bit then. How many centimetres long could the piece of wood be? Well, it's between 1.2 and 1.3. So you could have written this like a decimal. So you could have had 1.21 metres. You could have had 1.22 metres, all the way up to 1.3. Or you could have turned this into centimetres. So, or millimetres if you wanted to do millimetres. Centimetres is probably more practical. How many centimetres make a metre? Well, cent means 100. So there's 100 centimetres in a metre. Or am I right the wrong way around, haven't I? So if I want to go from metres to centimetres then, I need to times it by 100 because cent means 100. And there's 100 centimetres making up that metre. So 1.21 times 100. Well, 1 times 100 is 100. 2 tenths times 100 would be 2 tenths. 100 times 100 would be 1. So this would be the same as 121 centimetres. So you could say 121 centimetres, 122 centimetres, 123 centimetres, all the way up to 129 centimetres. Well done if you got those right. Okay, then here is our think together for today. So how many litres of paint does this tin hold? Right, straight away, I saw that word litre. And I know that we're looking at capacity, volume. I'm also starting to think in my head, right, how many, what else do I know about litres? Well, I know there's 1,000 millilitres in a litre, and I'm going to write that down before I even look any further at any of the rest of the question. So I've got this fact here. So 1,000 millilitres is 1 litre. Got that there? I'm going to remember it. If you want to, and this is a really good tip, think about already, what do you do to get from millilitres to litres? So you know it's 1,000, but are you dividing or are you times it? Well, what do you do to get from 1,000 to 1? You times 1,000 by 1,000 or divide 1,000 by 1,000. Well, this way is going to be dividing, and this way is going to be, I've got that written down at the side already before I even look at the rest of the question. So it's got a little bit of helpful things for me there as well. And a nice look at this, and I can see I've got 4,800 millilitres. So I'm starting with millilitres. I'm going to litres. I'm going from the smaller unit to the bigger unit. So I need to divide 4,800, and I'm, oh, it's a very small box to write 1,000. There we go. What's 4,000 divided by 1,000? Well, it would be, of course, 4. So then 800, I know now that's going to go past, it's going to go part of a litre, it's going to be shown as a decimal. So it'd be 4.8, could have 00 if you don't need to, 4.8 a litre. And here it is, look, on the place value scale as well. Well done if you got that one right. Okay, last one for think togethers, and then we'll do some independent activity. So what is the length of the hose in centimetres? Well, straight away, I'm looking at the word length, so I know I'm measuring how long something is. I know that we're looking for centimetres. What do I know about centimetres? Well, I know that cent means 100. So I know that 100 centimetres is the same as 1 metre. Okay, I know that. I'm also going to do the divide and the times arrows, so I've got it in my head. So I go from the smaller unit to the bigger unit. I divide, so I group it into bigger groups, so I'm dividing it. And I know to go from 1 metre to centimetres, I times it because I want to split it up into all those centimetres. Okay. Don't necessarily need to worry about all the boxes down there because it looks quite overwhelming, and we've kind of done that ourselves over here. So we've got 2.75 metres. So we're going from metres to centimetres, so I need to times it by 100. So I think that's my times box there. Times it by 100. Well, 2 times 100 would be 200. 7 tenths times 100 would be 7 tens. 5 thousandths times 100 would be 5 ones. So this would be 275 meters. And if you want to write this down, right, so 2 times 100 would be 200. You can just write a little 100 there, so you know that's going to be tens. You know that's going to be ones. You can just write that at the top. That is not a problem. If you want to still draw out a place value grid every time and leave your numbers up, that is absolutely fine. Okay, don't make a silly mistake because you rush through the multiply and divide it. Okay, here we are then. So this is your independent activity. I am going to give you a couple of minutes to look at number 1, and then I will show you number 2. I haven't got these printed in your packs, I don't think, but you can just write these down, okay? And you don't need to worry about all of these boxes because they do look quite confusing, okay? So just work out the main bit that it's asking you to do. So the first one is just asking you to convert 8.5 kilograms into grams. So you don't have to do all of the boxes, you can just do that bit. The next one, change 4,200 meters into kilometers. Okay. Number 2 then, we're going from litres to millilitres, and then for B, we're going from grams to kilograms. Off we go. And then the last 2 then, so can we fill in the missing measurements? So 5 meters is how many centimeters? And the last one then is one we need to do a bit of an explanation. So Lexi has tried to convert 2 measurements, but she's made a different mistake each time. Find Lexi's mistakes and write down the correct answers. In fact, we're only going to do one measurement. So she's got 2.6 kilograms and she's turned it into grams. So she's done 2.6 times 100 is 260. So can you tell me what her mistake is? And then can you tell me what the right answer would be? Lovely. Answer time then. So we know that kilo means 1,000. So we're going to do 8.5 times 1,000, which would be 8,500 grams. Give yourself a tick if you got it right. Ooh, weird, G. Next one then, 4,200 meters into kilometers or kilometers. We don't really say that, but we know what we mean. Kilo means 1,000. Oh, there's so many boxes for this one. So we're going from the smaller measurement to the bigger measurement. So we're going to be dividing by 1,000. We want to look at all those meters and we want to group them into groups of 1,000 to find a kilometer. So 4,200 divided by 1,000 would be 4.2 kilometers. Next one's right. So starts off nice and easy. Liters to milliliters. How many, what does milli mean first of all? Well, milli means 1,000th. So there's 1,000, so 1 litre is 1,000. There you go. 1,000 milliliters. And we're going from litres to milliliters. So we are timesing every time by 1,000. We're going from the big measurement to the small measurement. So we've got the big measurement, and we're chopping it up into all the milliliters, into all the little parts. So it's times and the number's getting bigger. So 2 litres into milliliters then, we times by 1,000 would be 2,000 milliliters. 3 litres would be 3,000 milliliters. 3.5 would be 3,500 milliliters. 3.54, well, that would be 3,540 milliliters. All we're doing is times it by 1,000, just moving everything up. 35 litres, right, well, 35 times 1,000 would be 35,000. 4, then it's 0.4, which would be 400 milliliters. Next side then, so we know we're going from grams to kilograms. So how many grams are there in a kilogram? There are 1,000 because kilo means 1,000. There we go. So 1,000 grams is the same as 1 kilogram. So this time we're going from the small measurement to the big measurement. So we are dividing, we're putting it into those groups of kilograms. So 5,000 grams is the same as 5 kilograms, nice and easy. Divide by 1,000. 6,000 grams, 6 kilograms, nice and easy. 6,500 grams divided by 1,000 would be 6.5. 6,580 would be 6.58 kilograms. You don't really need that 0. Last one then would be 65.8 kilograms. Lovely. Next one. Right, filling in the missing measurement. So this time you need to look at the name of every measurement. So how many centimetres in a metre? Well, there is 100. So it would be times by 100, which would be 500 centimetres. How many grams in a kilogram? 1,000. So we would times this by 1,000, which would be 7,500. How many millilitres in a litre? 1,000. So we need to divide this by 1,000. Now we haven't got 1,000 millilitres, we've got 650. So we haven't got enough for a whole litre. So it's going to be a decimal and there's no whole litres, 0. So it'd be 0.65 of a litre. Next one then, right, let's be careful with this one. So we've got millimetres to centimetres. I'm going to write this down. So there's 10 millimetres in 1 centimetre. There we go. And I'm going from centimetres to metres. If I'm at 1, do I divide by 10 to get to 10 or times by 10 to get to 10? Well, I times. I need to split this 1 centimetre into all the 10 millimetres. So I'm timesing. So I'm going to do 3.4 times 10, which means I move it 1 place, which would be 34 millimetres. And I can check this one using my ruler. There's 3.4 centimetres. So if I counted, I'd have 10 millimetres, 20, 30, 34 millimetres. Next one then, 0.03 kilometers in meters. Right, this is another one I'm going to want to check. So I'm going to write 1 kilometers. How many meters? Well, 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters, and I'm going from kilometers to meters. So I am timesing. So I'm going from the big measurement to the small measurement. So I am timesing. So that means I am timesing 0.03 kilometers, and I'm timesing it by 1,000. So if I times it by 10, times it by 100, times it by 1,000, so this would be 30 meters. Well done, if you got that one right. That one took a little bit of brain power, didn't it, that one? Trying to think about that one. Right, next one then. So we've got 12 litres and 50 millilitres. Right, okay then. So this one's set out a little bit differently. We've got the 50 millilitres then, so we can write that in straight away. Because 50 millilitres is the same as 50 millilitres. We've got 12 litres. So how many millilitres in a litre? 1,000. 12 times 1,000, 12,000. Is that my answer? No, because that's not 12,000, is it? That's 1,200. So I put a sneaky little zero in there. So now I've got 12,050 millilitres. Next one then. So I've got 8 kilometres and 400 metres. I'm turning it into metres. Well, I've got that 400 metres straight away then. And then I've got 8 kilometres. Well, kilo means 1,000. So there's 1,000 metres in a kilometre. So this is 8,400. Does that show 8,000? Yes, it does. So I can leave it there. Okay then, 1 kilogram and 5 grams. Right, well, let's put 5 grams then in the ones column. And then I've got 1 kilogram. Well, there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram. So 1 kilogram is the same as 1,000 grams. So I've got 1,000 grams. Does that show 1,000 grams? No, not yet, because at the minute that shows 15 grams, doesn't it? So you need to think about your placeholders. So there's nothing in the tens column, the hundreds column, sorry. There's nothing in the tens column. So it should look like that. Well done if you got those right, especially those 3. They were a little bit tricky. Okay, I think I find this one nice and easy. Well, what mistake has Lexi made? Well, she has times by 100. How many grams are there in a kilogram? Kilo means 1,000, so there's 1,000. So really, rather than times it by 100, she should have times by 1,000. So rather than it being 260, it would have been 2,600 grams. Right, well done for today. This is not easy, and I think we've done really, really well on that. So I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.